You are watching Gay Rights TV, where the truth continues.
But I want to turn back again to Hillary's health, because the Clinton campaign is in damage control mode right now. They thought they could dismiss this as a conspiracy theory. They thought they could own that narrative, and they can't. They're getting overwhelmed every single day by expert after expert, agreeing with each other, saying the same thing, that there's something majorly wrong with Hillary Clinton's health, not just from her personal behavior, which we've seen, the bizarre seizure type episodes, the twitching, the inability to walk, the inability to stay on her feet, the pillows propping her up during campaign events, Hillary's leaning stool, all of that. But now more experts going on the record. And in fact, this has now become part of the Trump campaign since our video went viral just over 2 weeks ago. Trump spokeswoman Katrina Pearson appeared on MSNBC yesterday to address this issue. Let's go to the clip.
This is something that Donald Trump brought up during the primaries. Do you mean the questions about Secretary Clinton's health? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, he has said that she doesn't have the strength or the stamina for a very long time. That part is nothing new. What's new are the other reports of the observations of Hillary Clinton's behavior and mannerisms, her dysphagia, the fact that she's fallen. She has had a concussion.
Well, hold on.
Really interesting
There's
things
no
out
indication that she... And let's just step back for 1 second. We did get this reaction from her doctor. I just want to read that to you, who says, quote, as Secretary Clinton's longtime physician, I released a medical statement during the campaign indicating that she is in excellent health. To reiterate what I said in my previous statement, Secretary Clinton is in excellent health and fit to serve as president of the United States. So these health questions have been debunked, Katrina, and yet Donald Trump continues to try to stir them up. Is that responsible for someone who's running for president?
Well, he's not talking about her health record. He's talking about specific observations, just like some of the clips that you've shown. And it is extremely important
he's clearly trying to
Hillary
spin
Clinton
up
has
some
taken
of that
a lot of
speculation.
time
He's
off the
clearly
campaign
trying to
trail.
spin up some of that speculation.
Well, it's something that needs to be addressed. She's taken a lot of time off the campaign trail. She hasn't had a press conference this year. Why don't we just have Miss Clinton have a press conference and she can answer all of these questions?
Now, you heard there the MSNBC commentator, the host, again, talking over the Trump campaign spokeswoman, not even allowing her to make her points, claiming that the, quote, issue had been debunked. Now, they're doing that by citing this fake document that was circulating on Twitter that purported to be from Hillary Clinton's personal physician. It wasn't. Everybody knew it wasn't. Nobody, no serious commentator who has been talking about Hillary's health ever used that document as proof. I didn't use it in the viral video that's now got over 3 million views. Sean Hannity didn't use it on Fox News. Mike Cernovich didn't use it. When Dr. Drew came out and talked about this issue, he didn't use it. Nobody is citing that document as proof. We know it's a fake document. We knew it was a fake document from minute one. So why did the Clinton campaign draw attention to a fake document that no serious commentator had even cited as proof? Because it's a straw man. They can hold this up and say, look at this fake document. It's so amateurish. It's so obviously been debunked. Therefore, all the other questions made by serious observers, medical experts about Hillary's health are also debunked. You see that little trick they're playing? Well, they've got a problem because every single day, prominent people are coming out. We had Dr. Drew 2 days ago. Lo and behold, KABC, that affiliate out of, I think it's Los Angeles, deleted the original Dr. Drew interview from their website. You go there now, it's gone. It's been memory hold. Now, there's no indication that Dr. Drew himself wanted them to do that, but it's disappeared. Thankfully, I uploaded it to YouTube. It's got probably 300,000 views by now on just an audio file. They can't keep this issue down. It's going to keep coming back, and it has again today. This is up on Infowars.com. Not a conspiracy theorist, another expert, radiologist Dr. Milton R. Wolf, who says that Hillary Clinton has a, quote, serious underlying disease. Again, That's not from a fake document. That's not from a conspiracy theorist. That's from a practicing physician. Dr. Milton R. Wolf says that Hillary Clinton has a serious underlying disease that her campaign is hiding from the American people. And he reached out to me last night directly to question why Hillary is being given this blood thinner, Coumadin, which is a drug used to prevent heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots in veins and arteries. According to Wolf, this is a quote, Hillary's doctors know you would never give Coumadin to normal, healthy patients. It's too dangerous. And the fact that she's taking this drug must mean, quote, her risk of morbidity from blood clots without Coumadin must be substantial. He goes on to say that in his medical expert experience, people who take Coumadin are at risk of intracranial hemorrhage and suffer from falls on a regular basis. Now, isn't that interesting, given what we've seen with Hillary's handlers, the Secret Service agents having to constantly prop her up, even when she's standing on huge platforms? So this is a serious medical expert, a practicing physician, who's actually a Ted Cruz supporter, so he's not in the can for Donald Trump, saying that the medication that Hillary Clinton is receiving clearly suggests that she has a serious underlying disease, and the Clinton campaign is hiding it from the American people.
Talk show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
The Alex Jones Show. Watch the free stream live at Infowars.com/show.
We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make, we fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Brian Williams has been all over the news lately. And while he's getting the shaming he deserves, don't think for a second that there aren't thousands of other people out there selling you lies every single day. And I want to make sure you don't lose sight of another liar who thinks she can use the heroism of our nation's armed forces to promote herself as the next commander-in-chief.
I certainly do remember that trip to Bosnia, and as Togo said, there was a saying around the White House that if a place was too small, too poor, or too dangerous, the president couldn't go, so send the First Lady. And that's where we went. And I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base. But it was a moment of great pride for me.
So Hillary claimed she dodged sniper fire to get to her car. Here's a video of what really happened. And in the footage, I'm not sure I see any sniper fire.
That's Senator Clinton talking to me on the military flight into Tuzla. And these are the pictures we recorded of the greeting ceremony when the plane landed.
From the footage, I'm not sure I see any sniper fire. And what makes this truly disgusting to me is that when she was called on it, she dismissed it as if it was no big deal. Only someone completely arrogant, ignorant, and disrespectful of what really happens in war could say something like that, and all to get people to like you more. I've seen sniper fire, and there's nothing casual, nothing small, and nothing ordinary about fighting for your life on the battlefield. There is an undeniable feeling that we all get when we learn of the selfless stories being told about the men and women who have sacrificed everything on the battlefield for our freedom. Those stories humble us, and they inspire us to wake up every single day and accomplish even more. Hillary was willing to lie in order to take advantage of that feeling of gratitude and awe Americans have for those who serve. Oh, I was under sniper fire and I know what it feels like to be in war. When she was called out for lying in that speech, she tried to make excuses saying she misspoke or her memory was hazy and she's only human. In my 12-year military career, I never heard an excuse like that from my leadership. It's impossible to even imagine that happening. When you fight a war or you lead a country, there are no excuses. Every day for 12 years, I had a front row seat to watch the most awe-inspiring feats of human achievement anyone has ever witnessed. Nothing matches the feeling you get seeing guys suppress the fear of death in order to fight for their brothers and fight for the freedom of the men and women back home. When you see that, when you truly see it and live it and experience it, those moments that you shared on the battlefield, the heroism and the courage you witnessed, will drive you and inspire you and humble you every single day for the rest of your life. And to associate yourself with that, not by action but by lying, is as dishonorable as anything I can imagine. Brian Williams is a joke, and he's getting the public shaming he deserves. But Brian Williams never ran for president, and he never laid claim to the title Commander-in-Chief. There's a different set of rules for people who do. And Hillary, the fact that you think the brave and selfless acts of our nation's heroes are yours to falsely associate yourself with just to advance your career proves that you are not worthy of the office you seek.
Lone Survivor is the true story of Navy SEALs on a 2005 covert mission in Afghanistan. Harsh film criticism by the left, some calling it pro-war propaganda, while others are questioning the mission itself. Here with his reaction is former Navy SEAL Christopher Mark Heben. All right, Chris, you served in Afghanistan. You were a Navy SEAL for 10 years. You know Marcus Luttrell, the man who wrote the book and who is, described in the movie, and many of the others. What's your reaction to this left's criticism of the movie?
Well, Judge, I believe the word that was used was jingoistic. And I'm sorry, but any movie that's pro-America in any way, shape, or form about our stance on the globe could be labeled as jingoistic. So I don't buy that word. That's complete BS that it's even attached to this project. What people need to understand is, as SEALs, we are the nation's 911 response team. We are put out there on the very edges of risk. Oftentimes, we're guided only by our moral compasses. One week, we're helping to establish U.S. foreign policy, and the next week, we're enforcing it with extreme prejudice. We don't get sent to build churches or to build schools or hospitals. When we're sent somewhere, it's to make a person, place, or a thing disappear. And Lone Survivor certainly pays tribute to our moral compass, as evidenced by the fact that they let those sheep herders go, which basically bit them in the backsides.
Well, when you talk about, the mission and how Marcus is, in the book and in the movie, I mean, that is a mission that, the type of mission that you've been involved in, and you actually know Marcus. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Marcus and I are friends. I'm friends with his wife, Melanie. I mean, these guys, this is a personal account of Marcus's harrowing experience. He lost 3 really good friends on the ground with him and another 8 guys in the air. It's unconscionable that anyone would even try to pick apart this story and inject any political slant to it whatsoever.
Well, there was so much that was written. The criticism was that the book that Marcus wrote about himself and his fellow SEAL members, didn't question the strategy in Afghanistan. And they complained that the writer, Marcus, who was putting his life on the line, was enamored of George Bush. I mean, what's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. George Bush is from Texas. Marcus is from Texas. I mean, come on. That just makes total sense to me. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But think about it. Chris, we just talked about Benghazi. Yeah. 4 civilians there with a warning. No one sends. President Obama doesn't send assets. He still won't answer any questions. And yet they're criticizing George Bush when we find out from Secretary of Defense Gates that the president, didn't even believe in the surge in Afghanistan. Why is there a double standard?
This administration is basically on mission right now for one thing, and that's to position Hillary Clinton for election in 2016. And let me make something very clear. Nobody that wears a Navy SEAL trident on their chest, nobody is a fan of Obama. Nobody is a fan of Hillary Clinton, period. Those 4 gentlemen that were killed in Benghazi should be getting the Congressional Gold Medal right now. And hopefully Debbie Lee with AmericasMightyWarriors.org can make that happen. That needs to happen, period. And Judge, let me tell you this. Me and some of my good friends, all former SEALs, are working on a project right now that is going to expound upon everything that's out there right now in Benghazi.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, this country, the people here are very interested in it because it's not often that we get the lies that we've been experiencing from this administration. All right, Christopher Mark-Eben, thanks for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Welcome back. A former Navy SEAL taking aim at Hillary Clinton, creating a controversial T-shirt reading, "Hillary Clinton killed my friends," and it's getting a lot of attention. So joining us now is former Navy SEAL Tage Gill, who called Ty Woods his mentor and was roommates with Glenn Doherty in Afghanistan. His organization, Project Warpath, created the shirts. Good morning, Tage.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm okay, thanks. So, very controversial. You've got bumper stickers and T-shirts that you say are very popular in the SEAL community that say, "Hillary Clinton killed my friends." What do you mean by that?
That's right. A friend of mine created the bumper stickers, and the bumper stickers have gone viral. We've had nothing but positive feedback inside and outside of the SEAL community. So I started making these T-shirts. The back of the T-shirts say, "Hillary Clinton killed my friend." It's the bumper sticker on the back. Everywhere we go, everyone that wears them, we get nothing but positive feedback, thumbs up, great T-shirt, you know, did you serve, where can I get one? People love them.
So tell us why it is that you blame Hillary Clinton and not the terrorists in Benghazi for killing your 2 friends.
The reason I blame Hillary Clinton and not the terrorists, I blame the terrorists also, but the reason I blame Hillary Clinton is because she was in charge of the State Department. You know, she was the Secretary of State. The consulate ultimately was her responsibility. The security at the consulate was poor at best. The terrorists literally pushed the gate open and walked in. The security that was there was local security. They weren't trained. They weren't vetted. They didn't have American supervisors. They just threw down their guns and walked away when the attack started. So my friends down the street at the CIA annex, they had to rescue the State Department folks, and they lost their lives that night when they were in the fight of their life.
Okay, so last question. Are the SEALs that you're still in contact with comfortable serving under a potential commander-in-chief, Clinton?
Well, I don't think they have a choice if she gets elected, but they don't want to do it. But, you know, they will. That's their job.
All right. Tage Gill, thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
For sure. All right.
In March, Hillary Clinton called Patricia Smith a liar for claiming Clinton said a video caused Benghazi.
You know, look, I feel a great deal of sympathy for the families of the 4 brave Americans that we lost at Benghazi. And I certainly can't even imagine the grief that she has for losing her son. But she's wrong. She's absolutely wrong.
On Sunday, Mrs. Clinton again accused Mrs. Smith of lying.
My heart goes out to both of them. Losing a child under any circumstances, especially in this case, I understand the grief and the incredible sense of loss that can motivate that. As other members of families who lost loved ones have said, that's not what they heard. I don't hold any ill feeling for someone who, in that moment, may not fully recall everything that was or wasn't said.
And it's not just Patricia Smith. Tyrone Woods' father also said Hillary lied.
I gave Hillary a hug and shook her hand, and she said, "We are going to have the filmmaker arrested who was responsible for the death of my son." She made this statement not only to me, but to other family members. Also, a half hour after this happened, when they had the casket ceremony, she also lied to the American public because she said, and these are her words as best as I can recall, rage was directed at American embassies as a result of that awful video that we were not responsible for.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
So she said basically the same thing in private to the families that were grieving, and then a half hour later she said basically the same thing as far as causation to the American public.
So, Hillary, who is it that's lying?
She told me that we are going to have the filmmaker arrested who is responsible for the death of your son. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's look at the totality of the facts. She also made this statement apparently to other Gold Star family members as well. I'd never met Pat Smith for probably about at least 6 months afterwards. She was in a different part of the building. Apparently, she made that same statement to Pat Smith and yeah, exactly. And to other Gold Star family members. Now, she basically has said, I never blamed the video for the attack in Benghazi. I never made that statement to the family members. However, about 45 minutes later, she was in front of a live audience, standing in front of the caskets, and she made this statement. She said, she did blame the attack on the video. She said, and as I recall, these were exact words, she said, the rage directed towards the American consulate was a result of that awful video. So basically, you can apply that fact. Why would she say, I didn't blame it on the video to the family members, but then in front of millions of people, she did blame it?
Right.
So
well, Charles, we appreciate
people draw their conclusion.
Well, and that's why we wanted to have you here, and also I want to just say thank you on my behalf. I can't speak for anyone else for you having the guts to stand up and speak truth. It is a commodity, and well, it's somewhat rare these days. We hope it will become more prevalent.
Thank you, Colorado Springs, USA. USA, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, love you all. To all our veterans out there and first responders, God bless you and thank you for what you've done and do every day. You know, there's an ethos that we have in the military, and it's don't leave no man behind. Ask Hillary what she thinks of that one. I've been on the downside of that. You know, lock her up. Yes, it does. Thank you. You know, I saw a retired general, Marine Corps general, come out and say that Trump isn't good for the military. When I was a young Marine and I went through boot camp, there was a thing, it was an acronym that we have, it's called JJ Did Tie Buckle, and it's to remind you of leadership traits, and it's justice and judgment. Apply those to Hillary, see what you get. Dependability and integrity. Does she have it? No, I don't think so. Decisiveness. No, we know that because she spent 4 hours trying to figure out if the Marines that were going to come to Benghazi should be in uniform or civilian clothes because she was afraid of offending the local Libyans. We have tact and integrity and enthusiasm. Those, I don't think she has that either. Bravery. Well, we know that. She had to lie about sniper fire landing in Bosnia several years ago. Unselfishness. Do we have that in her as a leader? No, because she's all about herself. Courage. Does she have any courage? Knowledge. Well, she has some knowledge. Knowledge how to take care of herself, how to take care of her cronies, those that are going to lie and cheat for her and help her out. Loyalty. Does she have that? Not to America, not to the American people. I just read something the other day that Egypt arrested a guy, I think his name's El Habab, who actually is a Muslim Brotherhood individual who was also part of the Clinton Foundation. Is that who we want running this country? So if I take all those traits and I apply them to each of the candidates, Hillary fails dramatically. Who rises above on each and every one of those? Donald Trump, that's who does. Who do we want for our president? Do we want somebody who has an integrity, judgment, and decisiveness, all those leadership traits that we look to, or do we want somebody who's going to lie and cheat and tell us what we want to hear to get our vote? That's exactly it. So what we need to do is come together. All of those who don't know or are unsure, think about it. Apply these leadership traits to each and every individual and see what you come up with. The Justice Department and the FBI have also done that, and they've failed short. They know that she has no integrity because she's lied. And a liar is the worst thing that you can have, because if you don't have your word, what do you have? You have nothing. Yeah, you have Hillary. That's what you have. Thank you very much. Colorado Springs, it's great to be here. We're here for Donald Trump. God bless you, and thank you all.
We've learned about alienated children and favored parents, but what about rejected parents? How does it feel to be Plutoed, to lose your family and your role as a parent?
Rejected parents feel devastated when their children refuse to spend time with them, stop expressing affection and respect for them. They haven't been prepared for this level of rejection, and they're stunned by it. Oftentimes they're embarrassed, and they worry that others are going to think, gee, you must have done something really bad if your kids don't want to spend time with you. People stop them on the street and ask how their children are doing, and rejected parents don't know because they are not being kept included in the children's activities. And they're very embarrassed. They don't know what to say. They usually try to change the subject. It's psychologically devastating to a parent to have the children that you loved and raised want to have nothing to do with you.
If alienation has been a problem in your family, the rejected parent probably feels most ashamed when ignored or shunned in front of others, such as at school or sports events. When people ask about their children, rejected parents often feel terribly embarrassed, even ashamed. They worry that others secretly think, there must be more to the story. I wonder what they did wrong to deserve their children's disrespect. Parents who have been rejected may begin to doubt themselves. They might ask, did I do something wrong? Maybe I'm not such a good parent.
It's very sad for a rejected parent when they see other parents enjoying their children, because it reminds them of all that they're missing out on. They feel like shadows, ignored. They feel shunned by their children, and it's humiliating to them.
If one of your parents is rejected, they're probably trying to figure out how to deal with this. Should I give up? Should I be tough? Walking away feels wrong, even though this might create peace. Hanging in there seems right, but maybe the emotional cost to you and them is just too much to bear. As a result, and you may have noticed this, these parents often act inconsistently. Sometimes they withdraw and seem passive and uninterested in being with you. Other times they try hard to be involved, maybe even going to court, calling the police, or insisting that everyone see a therapist. It may seem like they do too much or too little, which might make them seem unreliable.
In some families, after repeated attempts to reconnect with the children, a rejected parent may get so discouraged that they enter into a state that we call learned helplessness. All their attempts to solve the problems, all their attempts to reach out to their children fail, and they don't know what else to do, and they begin feeling utterly helpless to change the situation. They may feel that they have no alternative but to withdraw from the children, to stop trying. Unfortunately, For some children, when their rejected parent stops trying to see them, the children actually feel abandoned by that parent because they've never really lost the love they felt for that parent. And the children may then think, gee, maybe that parent doesn't deserve our love. If he wouldn't hang in there and continue to try to see us. They may misunderstand the parent's withdrawal not as a sign that the parent just didn't know what else to do and felt helpless to solve the problem. They may misunderstand and think that that's a sign that the parent doesn't love them enough. In some situations, particularly when there have been multiple attempts to heal the relationship between children and the rejected parent, and these attempts all fail, there may be no better alternative than to at least accept the situation as it is and temporarily stop trying to heal, stop trying to reconnect, with the hope that sometime in the future the time will be right for the children to recover their love and restore a positive relationship with the parent.
Rejected parents often ask others for advice on how to manage this difficult situation. Sometimes well-meaning friends and relatives encourage parents to respond with anger. You need to teach your ex a lesson. Or how dare your children treat you like that? This can lead parents to overreact in ways that don't help. If your parent responds this way, it might drive you further away rather than make you want to repair the relationship. In fact, rejected parents sometimes need to be reminded that all kids complain about their parents from time to time. Just because a child is moody or negative doesn't automatically mean that the child is becoming alienated. Rejected parents seek advice from professionals, such as lawyers and psychologists.
Rejected parents are often told that the best way to handle their children's rejection is to allow a cooling off period, allow the children to withdraw for a while, wait for the right time to come when the children will reach out to reconnect with you. But unfortunately, in many families, the right time never comes. And what began as an alienation, where the children had negative attitudes about the parent, becomes a total estrangement where the children lose all contact with that parent. One of the most important things for a rejected parent is to try to stay in touch with the children. Try to maintain contact. Now, this may mean having to develop a thick skin, because when the children are with you, they may treat you with contempt and with disrespect. But we found that it's easier to help children recover a positive relationship if they spend time with you and if they get to see that the rejected parent still loves them and is not giving up.
So what can rejected parents do? In the words of Winston Churchill, never, never, never give up. Not giving up, though, requires persistence and understanding, and your parents may not have a lot of that left if they've been rejected over and over. When they lose their patience, and nearly every parent does from time to time, parents make mistakes. The favored parent might exaggerate these mistakes to make it seem like the rejected parent always acts impatiently, or that this is why the children don't want to spend time with the parent.
When children treat a parent so disrespectfully, most often the parent is not at all prepared to deal with that effectively, and they react by overreacting. They get very angry, they lose their temper, they ask the children, "How dare you speak to me that way?" But they can frighten the children when they do that, and then the children can use that as another reason for rejecting the parent, because the parent actually has yelled at them, has been aggressive, and maybe scared the children. In other cases, rejected parents will tell the children, "If you don't enjoy spending time with me, why don't you leave this home and come back when you can be more positive?" And unfortunately, the children may use that as a reason not to see the parent. They'll throw those words back to the parent. "Well, you said you didn't want to see us." And what begins as a parent's effort to improve the relationship and solve the problem can really be the beginning of the end of the relationship. It's very important that rejected parents avoid overreacting to their children and avoid rejecting their children. This means they've got to develop a thick skin, and they've got to develop patience to to tolerate what is very disrespectful and contemptuous behavior without losing their temper.
If your parent overreacts, you might worry that this will happen all the time. Or you might think that your attitude finally made your parent stop loving you. Secretly, you might even worry that you are no longer someone who is worth caring about. Another common mistake rejected parents make is to lecture about right and wrong, fair and unfair. While the lesson might be true, lectures rarely work. The more they try to tune you in, the more you try to tune them out. If you've been rejecting a parent, you may be frustrated when it seems like they minimize your concerns and complaints. A rejected parent might say, "Oh, you don't really feel that way," or "That's just your other parent talking, those aren't your real feelings." This too doesn't work. It could make you feel that your parent doesn't care or doesn't take you seriously. If you and a parent are alienated from one another or becoming alienated, it is certainly important to talk about what's going on. But one mistake that rejected parents make is to try to show their concern by asking a lot of questions. This often backfires rather than helps. If you've experienced this, the questions are likely to make you feel interrogated rather than cared about. And it may feel like their questions imply criticism, not at all what your parent wants you to feel. Another mistake that some rejected parents make is to counter all the bad-mouthing by saying bad things about the other one. This makes children feel bad and only makes things worse. But rejected parents shouldn't be reluctant to set the record straight when children say things that are wrong or unfair. Your children need help to deal with complaints they hear about you. For instance, a child says, "Mommy says you didn't spend much time with us and we never had any fun together." You can respond, "Mommy's mistaken." Remind the children of specific things you've done for them and with them. Bring out family videos and photos showing better times together.
When a rejected parent overreacts to the children, it's very important for the parent to acknowledge that they made a mistake and to apologize for it. It can be very difficult for a rejected parent to do that, though, because they feel they've been treated so unfairly. The children have been so disrespectful and treated them with such utter contempt that the rejected parent has a hard time acknowledging that he or she contributed to the children's conflict. But it's important that they acknowledge their mistake and take responsibility for it.
We've already said that rejected parents should never give up. Their children are worth fighting for. But what else can they do to help? We'll have more to say about this later in the program, but here are a few tips. First and foremost, rejected parents should remember that their children are victims. They didn't want this mess, they just got caught in it, and are doing their best to cope with something they don't fully understand. Second, rejected parents should hold back from arguing and criticizing when their angry children invite them to argue and criticize. It's important to remember that being in a relationship is more important than being right. Rejected parents need to develop a thick skin to withstand all the hurtful things their children say and do. Third, rejected parents should watch and wait for unexpected opportunities to help their children. Big school projects or medical problems offer opportunities to show interest, caring, and concern. When rejected parents make mistakes, they're acting like all parents do from time to time. Even parents who aren't rejected make some of these mistakes, especially when they're stressed. We hope your parents will learn from this program to avoid these traps. But keep in mind that parents are more than just their mistakes. Maybe it's time to cut them some slack.
Now, Mylan Pharmaceuticals continues to face a backlash after jacking up the price of the life-saving EpiPen drug by about 450% over the last 12 years. Now, let me break down some of the ways they've faced some of this backlash. Now, for example, over the past week, Mylan has had a bit of a stock crash, losing nearly $3 billion after their stock has fallen. Now, of course, in order to try to mitigate that damage, first they announced that people would get a coupon. Oh, wow, look at Gene. Look at that, a coupon, right? Golly gee, that's fantastic, right? Now, this coupon would cut the price in half for a pack of EpiPens. Wow. Only $300 for 2 EpiPens. What a steal. What a steal. Considering that in 2007, one EpiPen cost about $50. You might have to do a lot better to try to get some of that trust back. Now, they're going to do, CEO Heather Bresch, she's going to try to do that and fail. Watch.
Help our audience, many of whom are parents themselves, understand how the price of a drug goes from $60, $75, $100 5 or 10 years ago to $600 today. How does that happen?
So, Brian, look, first, as I put out today, just to try to help, because I know this is a complicated conversation around health care and insurance, that the $600 is a list price, that $608 is a list price. What Mylan takes from that, our net sales is $274, so $137 per pen. And against that, manufacturing the product, distributing the product, enhancing the product, investing. When we took over this product 8 years ago, there was very, very little awareness. We have doubled the lives of patients that are carrying an EpiPen. We have passed legislation in 48 states to allow undesignated EpiPens to be in schools. And what that means, there have been unfortunate, tragic events, like a 7-year-old in Virginia who died on the schoolyard because the school had EpiPens, but not in her name. So we fought. That takes time and resources to get out there and make sure that people are aware of the issues and that people understand that EpiPens need to be everywhere. I said it's just like a defibrillator. When you are having a severe allergic reaction, you need EpiPen in seconds.
Okay. So she tries to compare it to a defibrillator, right? Except a defibrillator doesn't cost $600, and it doesn't expire after a year. But basically her argument is, hey, look, my product's got to be everywhere, right? And if it's everywhere, I just happen to make a lot of money from that. But in order to get my product everywhere, well, I've got to go and, you notice, we were working really hard. I mean, trying to pass legislation. That means I had to go and grease my local politicians, your local politicians, and guess what? That costs money. And I'm not going to eat that cost as the CEO. Of course not. No. I'm going to pass that cost of my lobbying onto you. Yeah, they've done a lot of lobbying, the government, to get EpiPens everywhere. And look, it's good to have them everywhere, but at the same time, don't pass that cost on to the consumer. So basically, let me summarize. I'm going to charge you more for a product that should be accessible, therefore making it less accessible. That's the truth of it. So what she says doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She's not very good at this. But don't worry. She's actually frustrated about this. In fact, listen to how frustrated she is.
But surely, Heather, you must understand the outrage. As somebody I talked to last night said, people are outraged because it seems outrageous that the American Medical Association has said this is basically the same product it was in 2009, and yet the price has gone up 300 or 400-fold.
So, look, no one's more frustrated than me. I've been in this business for 25 years.
You're the one raising the price, though. How can you be frustrated?
My frustration is there's a list price of $608. There is a system. I laid out that there are 4 or 5 hands that the product touches and companies that it goes through before it ever gets to that patient at the counter. Everybody should be frustrated. I am hoping that this is an inflection point for this country. Our healthcare is in a crisis. It's no different than the mortgage financial crisis back in 2007.
Okay, hold on. It's no different than the mortgage crisis, except that it's a lot different. It's quite a bit different. If people don't have these EpiPens and have anaphylactic shock, most likely they can die. Well, look, losing your home sucks in the mortgage crisis and having your home underwater, terrible, right? Not quite the same as dying from something that you could prevent with a simple device. But anyway, what she said about being frustrated. Yes, she must be incredibly frustrating as she runs to the bank with her $19 million in executive compensation because of the hiking of this drug. Most of what Mylan Pharmaceuticals makes in profit 80% of it comes from this drug alone. A drug that they didn't develop, a drug that was developed by taxpayer money, by the way, that they haven't really done much in research and development, not all that much anyway, to improve the product. No, they're trying to justify this price increase on, look, I had to go and lobby people and get my product everywhere, which actually made me money. Not a very good excuse. In fact, that's a terrible excuse. Now, when asked again, and I got to give this guy in CNBC credit because he's drilling her, right? Okay, well, that's meant grilling her. Drilling her sounds a little different, but I meant he's really grilling her on this subject, and I want to give him credit for that. But first, now, when asked how she could justify the cost increase and taking home those millions and millions of dollars each year, she completely ends up dodging the question. In fact, watch.
Heather, you understand the headlines, right? Which is EpiPens, which are needed by millions of children. The price goes from $50 10 years ago to $500 or $600 today, and you're making $18 million a year. You understand how that looks.
Brian, look, I understand better than anyone that facts are inconvenient to headlines. And why I'm here today and why I want to change this conversation, like I said, first of all, so everyone has access. Let's talk about over the last 8 years what we've done, to your point, to make sure the people who need it have it. When we passed legislation in 48 states to ensure that that schools could have EpiPens, we have given out 700,000 free EpiPens. We stock 65,000 public schools in this country with free EpiPens to ensure that they're there when needed. In 1 year alone, 2015, there were 1,000 anaphylactic events in schools, and 25% of the time, people had no idea they had a known allergy. So the EpiPens were used. They were there to prevent serious continued adverse events. So nobody wants them everywhere more than I do. We're now passing legislation, 30 states to have them in restaurants, hotels, because like I said, they need to be everywhere, because when you need them, seconds count.
I want them to be everywhere. I just so happen to make a lot of money. So I give away a few, 700,000. Hey, that's, look, it's good, right? But that doesn't justify, and that also doesn't answer the question. Oh, you know, headlines, right? Facts are inconvenient to headlines. You know what's inconvenient? Not being able to afford an EpiPen despite having insurance, which a lot of people find themselves in that situation, by the way. Or having to choose between your car payment, your house payment, or you know, whatever bill, your electricity, so you can afford something that could potentially save your life. Look, more access is great, right? But having it be so expensive, even with insurance, that's not helping people get access to this drug. You're completely missing the point. You're taking in huge profits. You're basically lobbying places so that they stock EpiPens, which, by the way, they conveniently buy from you because you have no competition. You're getting paid, and you're sitting there wondering, what's the problem? What? I'm just increasing access to a life-saving drug, but I'm also jacking up the price and making a tiny little profit in the meantime. She doesn't see what's wrong with that, and that's the problem here. And look, I'm giving a lot of shit to Mylan, right? But Martin Shkreli did the same thing with Daraprim. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that this is the new business model in the pharmaceutical industry, and not even the new one. It's just that we found out. So you can't really be angry at one company who's just playing by the system. You've got to get angry at the system. Why? Because it's incredibly broken and it needs to be fixed. Look, we need a system of healthcare that can stand up to these companies and negotiate on behalf of the people in order to get the best price on these kinds of drugs, to ensure that everyone has access to these kinds of drugs, whether or not they're rich or especially if they're poor. Because right now, these price hikes, they're unjustifiable. I've heard nothing from the CEO to justify this price hike. Nothing. Okay? And look, this kind of hike seems to only happen in America. You know why? Because it's the norm here. But when you look at other countries, they don't have this issue. They don't have this problem. I have viewers that are tweeting me, a Canadian viewer, for example, tweeting me and said, like, yeah, I tried to buy an EpiPen, $50 up in Canada. Why is it $300 for a single one here, but $50 up there? It's because their government will negotiate with these drug manufacturers and say, hey, man, we're not going to do business with you unless you lower your price. The system is broken, man. The system's broken. The reason that Canada can do this, the UK can get all these lower, priced drugs is, well, first they have access to generics, something that we don't have as much because of patent laws here in America, as well as being able to stand up to these drug companies. And look, we need a government and a system and a healthcare system that's willing to stand up to these pharmaceutical companies instead of taking their money through lobbying and letting them gouge the consumer. That's what we're advocating for. We need a better system. Getting mad at Mylan Pharmaceuticals, Turing Pharmaceuticals, and all the other ones, the place that's jacking up diabetic medicine, insulin, that's in the news now. You can't get mad at these companies without getting angry at the system. They're playing this system because they can, because they're allowed to. Let's take that away. Let's fix that system so they can't game it. Hey everybody, if you like this video, then please like this video and share. And if you want to see more like this, then please hit that subscribe button below.
He'll sacrifice his last cent to make sure she doesn't go without. But what if, after years of paying child support, you found out that little girl was not yours at all? Would you want all that money back?
The former boyfriend, now broke.
The system's a joke.
The current one.
Don't talk to me.
Any plans
to
pay the $32,000 back?
Don't talk to me.
The woman who took the money. The child caught in the middle of it all. And the government department that's doing nothing about it. Oh, what a mess. But if you've dealt with the Child Support Agency, perhaps you'll already know what I'm talking about.
They'll hound me to the end of the earth to get their money that I owe for child support, but when it's found that she owes me the money for a child that's not mine, they don't want to know about it.
It started well, and not long after Andrew Willoughby and Nicole got together, she fell pregnant, even though Army Reservist Andrew was back and forth from home during his Army training.
In between that time, she fell pregnant and told me that I was the father of the child. I was extremely happy, and from that day on, I believed that that child was mine, and I didn't doubt her. I signed the birth certificate believing that was my child, doing the right and responsible thing.
But soon after the little girl was born, the relationship broke down.
So, Andrew, it was important for you to do the right thing, the responsible thing.
Because it's not fair on the child.
And so he registered with the Child Support Agency and duly paid maintenance of around $100 a week.
You're not a wealthy man, are you?
No, I'm a factory worker at Holden's, so I'm not on a huge pay packet.
That's him on the right, and the factory is doing it tough. For some time, Aaron was made to work every second week on just 50% income.
I just kept paying because I believed it was the right thing to do, and I never missed a payment, even when I broke my leg in 2005 and I wasn't getting paid by my employer.
Eventually, he'd paid over $31,000 to the agency for the upkeep of his daughter, but Andrew wanted more access.
And my lawyer suggested that I actually get a DNA test first.
There was always that nagging suspicion, given he was away in the army when his daughter was conceived.
It was a big shock when I opened that letter.
When the results came back, there it was in black and white. His DNA was excluded from identification of the young girl. He wasn't her father. He lost his only child and a hell of a lot of money.
Not only me out of the money, but my mother, that eventually passed away, thinking that was her grandchild. My father, who bought her nappies. My auntie, that knitted her booties and cardigans.
So after 6 years, 600 statements and more than $31,000, the Child Support Agency sent one more letter with the infuriating wording,
You have paid Nicole $31,396 too much child support.
but their somewhat insulting letter got better. They asked this ripped-off former dad, please call if you want Nicole to keep the money, we will need your permission.
I actually couldn't believe that they had the gall to say to me whether or not they wanted me to let her keep it.
You can imagine his phone reply. So then the CSA did a Pontius Pilate. After demanding his money for 6 years, they wiped him and walked away. Hire a lawyer was their answer, so he did, and they tried 3 separate times to reach her.
She didn't show up, went to knock on her door a third time and the house was vacant.
So aside from the $31,000, this factory worker was going broke, again, engaging lawyers and spending thousands.
And that got me nowhere.
And you're further in debt.
Just another $5,000 on top of the $31,000. Every time I have to search for it, it's $1,500. I did that 3 times, and all the legal fees on top of that, I had to give up. I couldn't afford to do it anymore.
There wasn't much of an effort to track her down. I found her in 2 hours. There she is, having a ciggy on the balcony, living in a lovely new townhouse with her daughter, the one Andrew's paid for, and her new fiancé.
Just seeing if Nicole would like to have a chat with us.
Heavens, Nicole wasn't that hard to find. She even popped up in the TV news last year following a local drive-by shooting.
Extremely crazy, a bit scary, very scary.
But back to that lovely townhouse.
Does Nicole want to talk?
No, she doesn't.
Where the atmosphere is, well, a little tense.
Get the cameras off me and away from me.
Well, I'm on a public road here, so we're not on your property.
All right, no then.
Okay, but does Nicole want to
No,
talk?
do you want me to come down, mate, and we'll sort this out?
Is that a threat?
No.
Is that a threat?
No.
It sounded like a threat.
That's fiancé Glenn Peel. On his Facebook, this minor says he's engaged to Nicole. And we're certainly not saying here that Glenn was a party to the payments. But, as you can see, he's not happy to see us.
Don't talk to me.
Any plans to
Don't
pay the
talk to me.
$32,000 back?
Don't talk to me. Are you invading my private property now by talking to me?
I take it that's a no on the $32,000.
Mate, off.
Funny, the agency policed Andrew for 6 years to pay up, but no such action for the woman who wrongly took the dough.
It just shows what contempt she's got and what a joke the whole system is.
Yes, there is a system in place where he can get it back, but it's not that easy.
Lawyer Sam Macedoni has dealt with the CSA for decades.
It's all black and white as far as they're concerned. They don't do the reverse. I mean, no, they're not there to help you. They're just there to facilitate payment from party A to party B.
There's something wrong with the system and it has to be fixed. Even if she's on Centrelink and unemployed, maybe they should take $5, $20 a week out of her Centrelink, or if she's working, I can have a tax return. I understand she has a child, but at the same time, I'm $31,000 out of pocket.
There is one woman who can help Andrew Willoughby. Her name, Senator Marise Payne. She's the Minister for Human Services. Her offices are just behind me. So we spoke to her on Andrew's behalf to get some answers.
I appreciate this gentleman's situation and frustration with the process. I have asked my department to assign an officer to work with the gentleman to assess his options. This may include making arrangements to have the department on forward relevant papers to the former receiving parent or make referrals to community legal aid organisations for legal support.
Finally, caught in the middle of all this is a young girl who was told Andrew was her dad. And who knows what she's told now. There are several empty photo frames around Andrew's home where pictures of a former daughter once sat. And there's plenty more emptiness too.
It continues to ruin relationships for me till this day. I have doubts, I have trust issues, so I still am scarred by it.
It's hard, isn't it? You do feel so sorry for the little girl. And if you have an issue you think we should investigate, please send us an email or give us a call. Well, some people don't know when to admit